material? And is there a crossover point or just what may be the loss there? And the other thing that you touched on but did not elaborate was how it would impact the new revenue in terms of recycling some of these toys and putting them back into the market, what impact that may have. As senior management, we always want to know how things are going to impact the bottom line. We do have shareholders that we have to answer to. So I guess what I'd like to hear some more about is, I know socially and ethically it's a very good thing that you're choosing to do, but give me a little more of the contrast of the ethical win versus the financial loss or break even.
So I do understand your concerns about the cost of recycling as opposed to the cost of obtaining new plastic. So we have gone into this for right now. Sometimes it actually is cheaper to generate new plastic. And a lot of the costs associated with the recycling plant are actually also fixed costs because you're getting a facility, building land, things like that. I mean, there will be variable costs for all the utilities, labor, things of that nature, but we really feel that even though there is a cost discrepancy, that as recycling gets better and better and technology and innovation is continuing to move toward recycling and making it more efficient and definitely more cost effective, that putting Mattel ahead of this curve could really benefit the company in the long term. So even though there will be some losses as to that difference, we feel that from the revenue side of people really acknowledging that Mattel is doing this, Mattel is trying to use cleaner products, cleaner materials for their toys, that this will help increase the sales enough to offset those costs. So in that effect, we're hoping that in the short term it'll probably take a while for it to hit that break even, since we would have to incur those fixed costs at the beginning to start the recycling. But then as the program continues, because initially I think we'd want to outsource some of the recycling before getting the facilities, but if the pilot program goes well, we would definitely want to have those assets for ourselves and control that process. Then we could move to break even, and hopefully as technology gets better, move into the black.
Can I just add something to that before we go to the second part of the question? And that's that there are already certain costs that we wouldn't be accruing. They wouldn't be additional costs to recycling and creating new products, because there's already a system that Mattel has in play as far as using recycled products specifically for your Barbie items. A couple of years back, there was some backlash as to the high use of PVC in the Barbie toys, and Mattel responded by lowering the use of PVC while also using some recycled materials to create those Barbie items. And so Mattel already has a system in place to use recycled items to create their toys. So it wouldn't be an entirely new system that we're suggesting. What we're suggesting is an addition to the system, an expansion to include other items, and an expansion to include our own items to be recycled. So it's not necessarily a brand new implementation as much as it is an expansion of an already existing Mattel system.
Did I hear you saying also that Mattel or that we are already reducing the use of PVC in some of these products?
Mattel is definitely trying to. So one of the things with Mattel is that there is a huge conscious effort towards sustainability. It's a huge goal for the company as it stands. And every year, you guys are trying to get a little bit closer towards a future of complete sustainability. As we mentioned at the top of the presentation, we can't stop children from playing with these toys. We don't want to stop children from playing with these toys. What we want to do is to ensure that they don't create a massive wasteland of toy waste for future generations to have to deal with. And Mattel is in a situation to very clearly handle this issue because, we have the resources, we have a system set in place that we're trying to improve year by year. So yes, Mattel has definitely already started a recycling program for their Barbie items, and what we're proposing is a way to try and figure out how we can expand this into other Mattel items, because it's not just Barbie, it's Hot Wheels, it's American Girl, it's card games and other items. The card games in particular are items that would be so easy to use recycled items for, and currently Mattel is not using recycled items for those. So it's very simple. It's a very simple enhancement process as opposed to an introduction.
And then I'm sorry, can I ask you to repeat the second part?
The second part had to do with the impact of on new revenue.
The impact on new revenue?
Yes.
Okay. So I think some of that may have been addressed with Amy and Pontia, but what we're hoping is that as people are coming in to turn in the used toys and are receiving some sort of incentive from you, that they're going to create a longer relationship with Mattel than a one-time point in contact. And I think we talked a little bit about some of the positive PR that will come with the initiative. And Mattel is already one of the leading companies in the industry for being ethical and sustainable. And what we would like to do is keep Mattel there and not give it an opportunity to come down from the position that it currently has.
There are recycling companies that already pre-exist, and there's something to me that says, all right, I buy a bottle of water, and I'm buying the water that's inside there, not the bottle, and I put the plastic bottle into the recycling bin because it has the triangle of arrows on it. Maybe it'd be a cool little Bratz tattoo to put on the doll, but I don't think Barbie's going to go for it. Is it your concept of creating this infrastructure related to the trade-off? Why can't we just put some type of recyclable emblem on the product itself so that the parent, when they come to the point where they want to throw it away, just tosses it into the recycling bin and then just allow it to be recycled from there, and then we can just buy the end product and use recycled materials with it.
And do media blitz.
Is that a more
I'm sorry, what was that?
Is that a more efficient way of doing it than creating an entire infrastructure related to the buyback of our own product?
I'm happy to start that answer if you like.
It's just financial analysis. Was something like that just thought of?
Absolutely. Well, our recommendation was actually a two-pronged recommendation. So it wasn't necessarily, although one aspect of it was an element of recycling these products, the other aspect of it was the donation and the giving back to your community and to other communities aspect. So basically, in being able to get back these products that children are no longer using at this time, what Mattel is able to do is create this brand image of giving back to the community. So the idea isn't necessarily 100% to recycle these products. We do want to get back these products that are no longer being used in order to make good use of them. As Amy mentioned, along the lines of what Tom's, the shoe company, is doing. So one of the basic, and what we think actually is the biggest point of these recommendations, is to create a good brand image for Mattel that goes into the future. So it's a product sustainability issue, but it's also a company sustainability issue. We want to create an image for Mattel that goes into the future, so that while in the past we've had the issue of the PVC and Barbie, we've had lead paint issues come up. While Mattel is dedicated to a sustainable future, there are still issues that keep coming up that kind of tarnish the Mattel image. So our main issue is namely to create a positive image for Mattel. As far as the recycling goes, we had mentioned, there is recycling that Mattel does on their own with their Barbie products, and so it's not necessarily a brand new implementation of a process. It's something that we already do, and so why not do it on a grander scale to, as Lizette mentioned, maintain that position of being the leaders in our industry, both in the toy industry and in the sustainability industry, or sustainability aspect of the toy industry. So those are the main answers that we have as far as why would we do this on our own? Well, we would do this on our own because we have the capability of doing it. We're currently using that capability. Why not expand that capability and create an excellent brand image for Mattel to go into the future with?
And also from the ethical perspective, being responsible for repairing the harm you create is the right thing to do. So for Mattel, as one of the most ethical companies in the world in 2013, so we think being responsible to recycle your own products is the ethical things for Mattel to do in order to let them be more ethical.
I've always supported the recycling process. It's one of the great things about working here at Mattel. But I'm not happy about part 2 of your proposition, because I'm going to tell you, I look like an old guy. I remember what it was like to be a kid. And I don't want a secondhand toy. And I want to know who you think is going to be targeted to receive the secondhand broken toys. Toys that are no longer used are not pristine. So besides being a liability at the legal level, you now also have the antisocial impact of deciding that some targeted group is going to get crummy toys. And so I'm a little bit more concerned that we would like to see some kind of advancement toward full recycling. And did you look at the possibilities of going back to what we faced with Barbie, of completely replacing PVC? Or instead of extending the life cycle, shortening the life cycle of the toy by using fully biodegradable aspects so that when a toy is no longer usable, it does crumble away and go away. Did we even look at that?
I can take that. Yes, we did. And so currently, this is one of the initiatives that you are pursuing for quite some time now. PVC as a harmful material is not a new concept. So you've been working arduously to get rid of PVC.
2015, 85% down.
But you haven't found a material that is as flexible and as durable during the play to be able to do that. And as far as donating those toys, I can tell you from past experience of working in some children organizations that yes, a new toy is the best thing. But between a no toy and a used toy that has passed through our quality assurance process for being safe, and when we're looking at the quality assurance process, not just being safe, but also if it's, Barbie's missing an arm, she's not going to another child. So we are taking a look at all of that and making sure that the toy that's being delivered to the child is in fact a toy that they can play with and not cause them harm.
I can also add to that, just as far as the financial gain aspects of the donation process go, what we're believing will happen with this exchange process basically is that we're promoting people to get rid of those old toys, maybe even before they're old, so that we're hoping to get back isn't necessarily a Barbie with one arm missing. It's a Hot Wheel track that now currently we put out a newer Hot Wheel track, and your child really wants that new Hot Wheel track, but currently there's no incentive for that upgrade except that your child wants it. But now we're giving you an incentive. We're giving you an incentive of helping another child who doesn't have a toy. We're giving you an incentive of giving you a coupon in exchange for that not already too old for another child to play with toy. So we're trying to basically restructure that point of when a child is ready for a new toy in the hopes of upping the sales of newer items. So that is actually one of the other issues that we took into consideration is what are these toys that we're giving out? And we certainly do not want to be giving out old toys. And so what we're hoping to gain is that, one-upping the timing process of when a child is upgrading to the next toy.
I have a couple of questions about the donation part of the proposal. One, let's assume we get back to Barbie with all her body parts, but she doesn't have her evening gown and she's got one shoe. Are we really saving that much if we have to put a dress on her, put another shoe on her, repackage her, and send her out? Are we really saving that much and cutting down on our waste?
So I think that one of the things that we looked at in that is that we're hoping as we roll out the pilot program, there will be multiple people donating. And so with multiple people donating, you're going to get a bit of a cross, cross donation of toys. So if you come in and you donate your son's race wheel or Hot Wheels track, and someone else comes in and donates actual cars, being able to do that. And so we know that that may increase some of the costs, but before we even get to the point of donating it, we're going to be taking a look at, are these materials recyclable? And then from there, moving on to, is the integrity of the toy really something that we feel comfortable with in the donation process?
And also, if I could add to that, I'm going to be continually adding, apparently. But I'm actually glad that you asked that question, only because I've actually spoken with members of your consumer insights team as well as your design team in regards to clothing and Mattel clothing items on their toys. And one of the issues that Mattel has at the moment is keeping up with the fashions and having overstock in those clothing items. So right now, what's happening at Mattel is, fashions change weekly, and when they change for adults, they are certainly changing for children, maybe even at a faster pace. So, 1 week you might create a Barbie who's got, an Avril Lavigne costume, and, the next week your child doesn't want that costume because she wants her to look like Lady Gaga, or I don't know what she wants her to look like the following week. So at the moment, Mattel actually does have an issue of having overstock in doll clothing and accessory items, either from missing the mark on getting the doll out there fast enough with a certain fashion statement to be made, or just producing too much of an item. So there are overstock issues, and certainly while there are the crossovers of donations where we can take toys, clothing, accessories from one and add it to another, we're also being able to simultaneously take care of overstock issues that Mattel currently has with their clothing and accessories for toy items.
My other concern with the donation program, quite frankly, it's giving me ethical heartburn, is the idea that if you $29.95, whatever new Barbie costs, you get a Barbie in a box and it's safe to play with. If you get the recycled Barbie, well, I'm sorry, you have to sign this liability waiver because it may kill you. What does that do for our positioning as one of the world's most ethical companies and our public image if we're saying, well, we're sorry, you're poor, so you get a toy that can kill you now, and you have to sign a waiver. But we're not requiring that for the new ones.
Well, we would hopefully never donate a toy that could kill someone because it's going through the screening process. And so if there is any indication that there would be a harm placed on the child, then we wouldn't be donating that. Now, the waiver is more of parent attention to the fact that this is a used toy. And so, there's a possibility for a new toy to cause harm if it's not properly played with. If it, like I believe Tina was the one to mention that small parts on toys are what cause most harm in small children. So it's the problem with us conveying that information is that in a new toy, it comes packaged in original packaging. And when we're donating, we don't necessarily want to package all in an older toy in new packaging. We don't want to be misleading either. So it's making the families or the parents or the guardians aware of what harms could have existed with the new toy as well.
And the liability waiver in essence replaces but I think you had mentioned this, and I might just be repeating and I apologize for that. We don't want to repackage these donated toys. That's just creating more waste. And all of these warnings are written on our current packaging. So this is just a replacement.
Once upon a time, there was a very popular public service program called Toy and Joy Makers, initiated by various fire departments and police departments throughout the United States. And they would, around Christmas time, collect from the community toys, used toys, to give to deserving kids, right? That's almost never done anymore because liabilities that come from donating used toys. Now, Toy and Joy Makers are still there. The police department still collect toys. They're collecting brand new toys. And they're giving away brand new toys that people are donating as brand new toys. I don't know what they saw or what they faced as civil liabilities at the police departments and the cities that support them, but I know that most governments are self-insured. And one of the things that happens in a self-insurance situation is you've got to be very canny about the risks that go along because you're taking it on the chin. So with that kind of background, did you look at that and see whether the liabilities are being underestimated here or whether we're on the ball with them?
As far as those liabilities go, these toys are still on the market. And basically, you can go into a Goodwill or a Salvation Army or any kind of used store and get used items, used toys that Mattel has no control over quality surveillance of. So what we're proposing is, in essence, getting those toys before they reach a market where people are paying for them. So either way, these toys are going back onto the market, and we'd like to have more control over how people get them, what they're getting. These toys, while they're being sold at secondhand stores, they still have our names on them. And like you said, some of them might be damaged, faulty, any number of things, and they still have the Mattel name on them, and they're still being sold. So we want to get those out off of the market before they go somewhere else. And why have someone sell it for $1 or $2 when we can inspect it and give it away?
If I could add on that as well. Since these were charitable organizations, the government, the police officers, and the firemen were graciously spending their time collecting these toys, there was a good chance they weren't conducting any real inspection process like what we're planning here. So we're really hoping that our preventative measures that we're going to be implementing to inspect the toys before they go out, let the parents know that these toys are used, will really help to decrease the liability issues that program was experiencing when we're donating our used toys.
Thank you.
Is the ultimate goal here to create toys or to drive us in the direction to create toys that are more recyclable and have less? I saw the goals of 2015, and then there was that last one that didn't have a date on it. Is there any, from the research you've done, time frame, a big window, where we may say there's a crossover that our toys would be more recyclable? The percentage of our toys would be more recyclable than those that are not? Because all the questions I'm hearing from my colleagues is that ultimately, with the liability, we really want to get out of the game of repurposing these toys. And we would rather get to an environmental stage where we are producing a more environmentally sound toy that can be hopefully recycled in recycled trash that we put out, or recyclable items that we put out every week. You know, that would get us out of the recycling business, get us out of the repurposing business. You know, is there a big window that you can possibly tell us, if this goes well in this time frame, we will be, hopefully moving out of taking toys back in and repurposing them?
I think as far as a time frame, and I'll start this, and if anybody wants to add add to it is that's the conversation that we're trying to start here right now. That last statement that had no date and had no numbers is basically there because Mattel, you know what you want to do, you don't know how to do it. And unless you know how to do it, you won't know when it's going to be able to be completed by. So we're trying to start this conversation. And for us, our recommendation is a lot of it has to do with a learning curve process. So once we start implementing the ideas that we're suggesting, we're learning a little bit faster than our competitors how this recycling business works, how much of our materials can be reused, how, and year by year we're getting better and better at it with the hopes of eventually gaining the knowledge and the insight to be able to create Barbies without PVC and fully recyclable and biodegradable items. So while I can't, and my colleagues might be able to touch on this more, can't think of a way that we can put a date on that without first clearly defining the process and how we're going to implement that at Mattel. What I can say is that we're beginning the conversation and starting that learning curve faster than our competitors so that we can move towards that goal.
And also, as a consulting firm, we just direct you to see with the new trend how we can replace those materials like PVC, but it totally depends on Mattel's R&D department and also the worldwide scientists to discover if there's any other materials can replace PVC. But we know Mattel right now did a fantastic job because all your package is 100% recyclable, and that's a big, huge improvement. But hopefully in the near future that the Barbie, the whole body of Barbie can be recyclable. Yeah.
One last comment, and I'll just make it as a comment. And it's not to cast dispersion on you as the consulting organization to us. But in a previous life, I've dealt with what we call in the business change orders. And this almost sounds like a consulting firm change order. When I don't give you a date or a specific, it's like, we'll give you this much, and then we'll be back in 2 years to tell you we're going to do a change order, and this is how much it's going to cost you for us to, do the next phase of it. So I just, that puts a little bit of leeriness in me when I see that open-ended date here. It's almost like a contract that says, get ready, I'm bringing you a change order.
Well, I mean, we can definitely estimate a change order. So if we take into consideration the amount of time it took for Mattel to respond to the PVC issues with Barbie, so you reduced that content, that ingredient, or whatever you want to call PVC usage, and you did it within a matter of, I want to say it was, I can't, let's say it was 3 years. So it took you 3 years just to reduce the level of PVC in your Barbies worldwide, all the products that are being distributed worldwide. And that was just for one item. And what you're trying to see is, can we make everything recyclable and biodegradable? And while we certainly can, if it took us 3 years to make Barbie a little bit less environmentally unfriendly than she is, then let's add on another 3 years to make her completely biodegradable, and then maybe add on another 3 to implement it throughout all of our products. And so I'm seeing, and this is exactly what we've spoken about. It is a rollout process, and so it is a phase-out period of maybe, it's a good decade before we can be an entirely environmentally friendly, sustainable company that produces solely biodegradable products.
And I think as a management team, we could accept that kind of recommendation, because what we're looking for is we're looking for measurable results. And the measurable result is there.
Right.
And when we have nothing on that end document.
Right, well, absolutely. And actually, I think that with my math, that brings us right to when you did want your 100% change, which was 2022, it is now 2013, so I'm a year off.
Any further questions, comments from my cohorts?
Questions or comments?
Are we into the...
No, we were wrapping up our questions, in that case we can go to feedback now if there are no more questions.
Well, I don't want to start the feedback because I want to follow up on what Stan was just now talking about. Frankly, I got a little bit confused there. I thought maybe part of what you were talking about was feedback as well, or different from Q&A. Because I found that unspecified target to be a problem for the presentation. And do you have this slide? Can you click to that slide?
Which slide?
The one that talks about the 2015, 2015.
Like the second.
It's like the second, third.
Second or third slide in.
Here, I'll get it.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
That's okay.
This requires an illustration, if only for my sake. Okay,
There it is.
so when, was it, who was talking about this slide?
I was.
Right, so when you were talking about this slide, I got the impression from the audience position that Mattel had made these statements. That Mattel had already put out there as a goal, 5% reduction or in efficiency by 2015, 85% by 2000, and no specified target. They had this third goal with no specified target. Is that correct?
Yes,
That's
that's
correct.
the Mattel
Okay.
statement.
So, my recommendation for the presentation would be that you address that as a specific thing for Mattel to correct. Maybe this is where Stan was going, but I got a little bit confused because I wanted to hear you say, we like what you're doing here on the efficiency. We like what you're doing here on the packaging. We like the concept here, but as you managers know, you can't do anything if you don't know what you're trying to get to. So if you don't have a destination in mind, you will never get there. Moses was lost in the desert for 40 years because he didn't know where to go. Right? So we get him a specified target. Now, I don't know where this 2022 came from, but if that's in there, if you've got that in your research, you can throw that in there and say, in fact, if you follow these proposals, we believe by 2022, you will be here. And that, I believe, would really tighten up a lot of the presentation.
Yeah, thanks for clarifying that for me, because I was under the impression, I had read that wrong, that you were making that recommendation about the no specified date.
You see, and that goes exactly to it. Some of us thought it was one way, and some of us thought it was something else. You don't want ambiguity in your presentation. Speaking of which, I don't think you want to undercut yourself, take your legs out from under you. So when you were suggesting that we start a pilot program in California, and one of the benefits of doing that is we mitigate our risk if our proposal doesn't work. We don't want to hear that. We do not want to hear you as a subject matter expert say there's a chance that our proposal won't work. Because part of what you're doing is selling us, right? Your proposal always will work. If it doesn't work, well, we'll have to come back and do a change order on that. But you don't want to undercut that by suggesting it at all. And the other thing is staying in role. I thought your presentation was very good, very polished, you did a good job. But there was one critical slipping on a roll where someone said, unfortunately, due to proprietary rules, we couldn't get all the materials from Mattel. You're talking to Mattel in your role, right? So if you didn't get it, it's because we didn't give it to you. Now, you're not going to tell us, unfortunately, because we're proprietary, you wouldn't tell us what it is. So my suggestion on that, I understand what you're saying, what you're trying to say, but my suggestion on that is you leave it be. And if somebody comes up in the Q&A and says, well, just exactly what kind of stuff besides PVC and heavy metals are we putting in there, now you may be able to respond, well, you know, you're Mattel, you know what's in there, or go talk to your research people. But don't apologize for not being able to get the proprietary information, because that makes your subject matter expertise weaker. So now I'll subside.
Thank you.
Okay, my comments are as follows. I applaud you that you took on a tough one here. And the reason why I say it's tough is because there's so many semantics to implement implementing this program. You've got the collection, you've got the coupons, you've got the transport, you've got the recycling, you got the analyzing the product to see whether it can be given away, and you have the giveaway program. So there's so many different levels that this proposal brings to it that you tackle, and you try to deal with each specific one in a very limited amount of time. So I applaud you for taking it on. My comment on one of the earlier ones was, swallow the elephant. You guys did it. Well done. A couple of things. The Tom's Shoes, I think it was the Comparo that you provided out there. You may buy a pair of shoes, brand new shoes from them, but they're going to give away not a used pair of shoes. They're going to give away a new pair of shoes. So you need a better comparison than that one. Comparisons are really, really good because we don't want to feel like we're the first one to go to the moon. We want to be able to say, oh, somebody else did it on a smaller level, or we've already taken baby steps in this particular area, but how far do we want to go? If we can look at it and see where it's happening someplace else, and they're doing that effectively, even with a waiver or something like that, where it's been tested, then we're more likely to take the bait. So try to find a better comparison than the Toms. The indication that there are statistically the purchaser is more willing to pay a little extra money for something if they know that company is sustainable. The consumer in this is the little girl screaming on mommy's leg. Mommy, Jamie has this doll and I want this doll too. That's the consumer. That's why the toys are low on the shelf, not high on the shelf. So the mother is not really going to be the consumer at this point, and they're not going to be driven by the sustainability. So I'm not sure that was that convincing of an argument. And if you're talking to executives from Mattel, they know what their target market is, and it's not the mother on sustainability. The liability issue is just a tremendous issue, and it's a very difficult one. A good example would be cash for clunkers. When the Obama administration said, okay, we're going to give money to buy back, your old cars so we can get them off the road, and then you get this coupon. But what do they do with all those old cars? They didn't even sell them to Mexico. They just, everything had to go to the landfill. That was the requirement, or would be recycled. So that was the requirement for that. They were not put back into the system. That the liability issue is just an enormous issue that I don't know how you're going to, your position could get around that. And then the final thing is the cost of the liability was not calculated into your costs, as well as the cost of deciding, of having the people who decide who gets the recycled toy. There are costs associated. Those are two additional costs that were not included in the presentation. So identify those as areas where we probably need to bolster your recommendations next time.
Overall, I thought you did a very good job. A couple things that I appreciated was the very first words out of your mouth, here's everybody else on the team. So you personalize it, you made everybody human to start out with. Instead of getting halfway through, now there's somebody talking about somebody else. I really liked the last slide. It was kind of subtle reinforcement of the whole recycling. I would have liked to see a little more on the whole collection site and coupon, how something with internal controls you would have to set up to make that happen and work. It would be scary. So I would have liked to see a little more how that would actually function in the real world. Because I just you set it up, it starts on a Tuesday, on Wednesday, your coupon's on the black market. So I'd love to see how that would have worked. Oh, and I did like the line on the, about the animals that didn't consent to be harmed by the, I read that in the instructions. So that was a nice little line that you put in there too. But overall, I thought it was a good job. I mean, there's some things where we could have gone a little further down the road, but as an overview, you did a good job.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Again, and you did a wonderful job. As he said, you had an elephant there that you were trying to solve. You know, the whole thing of this is a piece of recycling, and recycling has had starts and stops, and you know, so it's a tough issue. But you got into it and tussled with it, and I think you did a really good job. You had a lot of good information. Don't apologize for kicking in when you know something that can help your presentation. You were fine.